suddenly becoming scholars when this teacher walked into the room. And for me, my baddie teacher was Mrs. Rodriguez in English class. And listen, calling this teacher just a baddie doesn't even do it justice for how beautiful she was. And it wasn't just me that thought this, it was all the guys at our school. And because of that, when we were picking our classes, everyone would try to get in Mrs. Rodriguez's class. Not because of what she was teaching. To be honest, I don't even remember a single thing from that class. It was purely because she was 26 years old and looked like she should have been on a magazine cover instead of teaching us about Shakespeare. So of course, when I found out I got into that class, I was so excited. And the actual dynamic in that classroom was insane. Guys would show up 10 minutes early, which never happened for any other class. Like I knew kids who were late to literally everything. Like I'm talking, they were probably even late to their own birth. But when it came to this class, suddenly they discovered the concept of being on time. And whenever the teacher needed help with passing papers out, you know everyone raised their hand. I don't know what everyone's grades in that class were, but they must have been pretty great because I saw the same guys who would sleep through every other period suddenly raising their hands to discuss symbolism in the book To Kill a Mockingbird. Do you even know what that sentence I just said means? Me neither. That's how hard people were trying in this class. But not everyone liked this class. No, because the girls hated it. And I understood why. They had to sit there and watch every single guy in the room be a complete moron trying to impress someone they had zero chance with. My friend Sarah, who was in that class with me, once told us being in this classroom is like going to school with 20 golden retrievers who all just saw the same tennis ball. I didn't understand that at first, but now that I think about it, that was pretty clever. But just imagine how depressing it was when the school year ended and I had to say bye to Mrs. Rodriguez. It felt like getting a divorce. I mean, Mrs. Rodriguez, if you're watching this, I am old enough now, in case you want to go on a date or something. You know, I know you were teaching English, but let's be real. I'm pretty sure we both felt some chemistry between us, right? The worst part about this school year ending was that the next year after this, in my new English class, I went from having Mrs. Rodriguez as my English teacher to the next teacher that every school has, which is the creepy dude. Now, if the baddie teacher was every student's crush, the creep was every student's nightmare. Specifically, if you were a girl. We're gonna call my creepy teacher Mr. Peterson because if I use his real last name, I'm afraid he might, I don't know, come to my house and kidnap me or something. I mean, he was a creep. But anyways, Mr. Peterson taught history. I don't know why I said he taught English. But looking back, I have no idea how this man kept his job. Jokes that were just slightly too personal. There was this unspoken understanding among the girls in the school that you didn't want to be just to see if he would do anything weird. And as far as I know, he never DM'd her, but he would always comment on all her photos. Didn't say anything unusual.
When your 5G home internet just can't handle all your new devices. Get fast, reliable internet with a 3-year price lock guarantee. Plus, adding mobile is easy and affordable.
Would always comment on all her photos. Didn't say anything unusual, but the fact that he was commenting at all was weird. And this was about 8 years ago. So you may be wondering, where is he now? Well, he was actually on a YouTube video last week. Yeah, that's right. He was on a Gideon video. No, I'm just kidding. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was on there soon. Now, thankfully, the creep teacher usually just taught high school classes, which didn't make it any better, but at least he wasn't teaching younger kids. Because have you ever noticed how the types of teachers schools have changes as you go to different grades? Elementary school teachers were basically just your second parents. You were still at the age where you're pooping your pants in class like every other day, so they couldn't even really focus on actually teaching. And you were scared of the teachers. Like my elementary school classes always had these colored cards you'd get. Green meant you were doing good, but red meant bad. So if you got a red card, it was basically like getting a red card in football. You were cooked. Then you move on to middle school, where for the first time, you're actually starting to learn stuff beyond just addition and subtraction and how to not poop your pants. And now, instead of just having one teacher, you had 6 or 7 all teaching different subjects. School's getting harder, you're going through puberty, and all the teachers are telling you, you better not mess around. They won't let this slide in high school. Then you get to high school and they let literally everything slide, like everything. Because high school teachers either acted like the president who didn't let you do anything, so you hated going to their class. But the other half of high school teachers were just people who had straight up given up on life by this point. They were just trying to make it to retirement. You could do literally whatever you wanted in these classes, which brings me to my next subject, the chill teacher. The chill teacher was usually a coach for one of the school's sports teams who just needed a teaching job to legally coach. They literally had the I'm just here so I don't get fined attitude about their job. Everyone was getting an A in their class no matter what. Show up or don't, they couldn't care less. The only thing they cared about is when that last period bell rang and they got to leave the classroom and head to the football field. I will never forget the one class I had with our football coach because it was amazing. I had a teacher named Coach Matthews who taught physical education theory. And you may be saying, I've never heard of that class before. Yeah, me neither. All of us students were pretty sure they just made it up simply so he had a class to teach. And let me tell you, this man put about as much effort into teaching as this security guard did trying to stop people trespassing. He would do the same thing every day. Put on a documentary about sports and then fall asleep at the desk. I'm not exaggerating about the sleeping thing just to make the story sound better either. He had a full routine. He'd start the video, tell us to take notes on it, then sit down, put his feet up, and within 10 minutes, he was out, completely snoring. We'd have full conversations at normal volume and he would not wake up. His grading system was the most simple thing ever. You either got 100% or 0. That's it. If you showed up, you got the 100. If you were absent or being dumb, you still probably got the 100. I never met anyone in that class who did get a 0, so I don't even know if that ever happened, but it genuinely would have been harder to get a 0 than a 100. You would think at some point the school would step in and be like, hey coach, if you're gonna continue working at this school, we need you to actually teach something, like even just a little bit. But Coach Matthews was so good at coaching the team that as long as they kept winning, the school didn't care one bit about what was going on inside the classrooms. Every day I miss Coach Matthews' class. But if there's one class I really don't miss, it was my 7th grade science class. Because for some reason, there are some teachers out there who wake up in the morning with one thing on their mind, and that is to make sure their students' lives are as miserable as possible. It's like they can't sleep unless they know every student is going home after school crying. My 7th grade science teacher, Mrs. Elliott, taught me that some people just want to see the world burn. And she is the subject of the next type of teacher I'm going to talk about, which is the teacher that's on a power trip. If you don't know what I mean by this, let me give you a visualization of what this looks like. Picture a boxing ring, and inside it is the best fighter in the world. If someone tries to come into that ring, they beat them up, punch them until they have no hope left. Now the teacher that's on a power trip, that's the boxer. And the boxing ring is her classroom. And the opponents that come into the ring are the students. Because stepping into Mrs. Elliott's classroom was like stepping into a torture chamber. But at least when you're in one of those, the torture usually stops after a while. This, on the other hand, was never ending. So real quick, I gotta tell you guys this. A couple weeks ago, I'm mid-workout trying to get jacked, but in the middle of my exercise, I feel pain in my chest. Not an emergency, nothing dramatic, but just enough to where I'm like, okay, that doesn't feel normal. So I finish the workout, go home, and just forget about it, thinking I'll just be good tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes, and my chest hurts even more. I give it a couple days to see if it could get better, but it didn't. If anything, it just kept getting worse. Now usually, this would be the time where I just ignore it and hope it could get better on its own. But this time was different, because now, instead of just letting the problem linger and not doing anything to fix it, I use ZocDoc, today's video sponsor. ZocDoc is a free website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors, all based on your own preferences. You can search through 200 plus specialties offered on ZocDoc and see which doctors take your insurance and read reviews from real patients before deciding who's right for you. They have over 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering everything from primary care to dentistry to dermatology and eye care. You can book in-person or video visits, see real-time availability, and schedule instantly with no phone calls required. And appointments made through ZocDoc typically happen within 24 to 72 hours, sometimes even same day. So if you've ever ignored the doctor because of how annoying the process is, you can check out ZocDoc.com/Tyler Vitelli. The link's in the description. Thanks again to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it. Let me explain to you just how horrible this class was. You couldn't use the bathroom during class, ever. Didn't matter if it was an emergency, didn't matter. If you were sick, it did not matter if you quite literally pooped on the floor, because she had this whole thing about how
in the real world, you can't just leave whenever you want.
Which is actually not true at all. I have no idea where she got that from, but whatever. And then when it came to where we sat in class, of course, she assigned seats, but she had a strategy to make sure we sat in the worst spot possible. If she saw you even smile talking to the person sitting next to you, she would immediately move you next to someone you didn't talk to. The whole point of her class was to make sure that you did not enjoy it. Of course, the most terrifying part of being in her class was on test day, because cheating in that class was impossible. If you even dared to turn your head 1 degree in either direction, you better kiss any chance at college away, because she would fail you right there. I remember one time a kid sneezed during a test and she accused him of cheating. Yeah, because of a sneeze. He promised he wasn't cheating, but she didn't trust him, so she made him retake the test alone in the hallway. When he tried to explain that he just sneezed, she said,
I've been teaching for 15 years. I know all the tricks that you guys try to pull by now.
Looking back at it though, I low-key respect how dedicated she was to being a villain. Like, she was really a D1 rage baiter. And don't get me wrong, I never want to go inside that class again, but I can tip my cap to anyone who's that committed to something. Now that science class was bad, but at least after the school year ended, I never had to worry about it again. But unfortunately, there are some teachers you are stuck with for life, whether you like it or not. And it's all because you know this teacher outside of school. For me, it was Mrs. Patterson, my friend's mom. She taught some medical class I don't remember the name of, and at first, I thought it was gonna be chill. Like, she was cool outside of school. I went to their house for sleepovers many of times. So surely this would be an advantage for me, right? It was not an advantage. First of all, I think because everyone knew that I was best friends with her son, she went out of her way to not show me any favoritism, which, okay, I respect, but also, come on, throw me a bone. Like if I asked a question, she'd be more strict about making me figure it out myself than she was with other students. But the real awkwardness came from the fact that since I was friends with her kid, my mom was friends with her. So if I was misbehaving in class, my mom knew about it. If I was talking to a girl in that class, she'd tell my mom about it. That never happened, let's be real. But if it did happen, my mom would have known. Point was, I felt like I always had to have my guard up here because she was watching everything I did and reporting it back to my mom. The worst part was how this affected me outside of school, because now whenever I would try going to Jake's house to hang out, if his mom was there, I tried to hide from her. I didn't know whether she was gonna be cool mom or scary teacher, so I just didn't want to get involved with it at all. It actually started to put a strain on mine and Jake's friendship because I started saying no more and more whenever he would ask me to come over. Not because I was busy, but I just didn't want to go to the house where my teacher lived, unless it was Mrs. Rodriguez's house. Once again, hit me up. I do have to say though, as much as this class made me super uncomfortable, my friend's mom was a pretty good teacher. I got a solid grade in that class if I remember correctly, but I can't say the same about this next type of teacher, which is the one who just straight up sucks at teaching. Not even trying to say this in a mean way. Like this type of teacher was usually really nice and trying their best. They just had no idea what they were doing. A lot of the time, it would be an old person who was alive for both World War II and Prime Fortnite. So by this time, their brain just could not function anymore. And the question with these teachers is, why don't they just retire? They're already 105 years old. Go travel the world. Enjoy your life. Get out of the classroom for once. Well, the reason they don't retire is because teaching is what gives them purpose. Teaching is what gets them out of bed in the morning. Without teaching, they don't know what to spend their days doing. They simply love teaching. And teachers also get paid like $4 an hour, so they probably just didn't have enough money to retire. But the other part sounds sweeter, so let's just go with that. Now, I had a teacher like this in school named Mrs. Campbell. She taught algebra, but there was only one problem with being in her class. She had no idea how to do algebra. Literally no clue. Talking about her chocolate chip cookie recipe? Yeah, she could do that, but finding the circumference of a right triangle? No chance. She was a lovely person, always positive, always encouraging, but when she tried to explain certain concepts, it was like she was speaking a different language. She'd write something on the board, and her hands were shaking, so you couldn't even really read it, but this is what she would do.
So if you multiply 3 times the x variable and then find the square root of it, then you get, who's hungry?
She'd pause, erase what she just wrote, rewrite it slightly differently, then look at the textbook to confirm that she did it right. She never did it right. She'd teach the same concept 5 different ways, and somehow all of them were wrong. I remember spending an entire week on quadratic equations, a concept I didn't even know existed, and by the end of it, I was more confused than when we started. Really think about that. I understood a concept more when I had never heard about it than after she started teaching it to us. But you could never be mad at her because she was so nice. She genuinely cared about whether we were learning. She'd stay after class to help, offer extra credit, and try her best. But unfortunately, her best just kind of sucked. Her class definitely made me dumber, which is pretty impressive for me. But there would be kids who would take advantage of this because since the teacher was so out of the loop, you could tell her that she made a mistake grading your assignment and she would just trust you. There were students all the time who would absolutely bomb a test, then go up to her and say she put the scoring wrong, and she would just assume they were telling the truth and change it. Mrs. Campbell, if you're still kicking, which I hope you are, I want you to know we appreciate you, okay? We know you tried your best. It's time to sail into the sunset.
I'm really trying to improve.
Go to the Bahamas. Just enjoy yourself, girl. You deserve it. Now, I kind of mentioned that you could manipulate Mrs. Campbell into getting whatever grade you wanted because she didn't know any better. But old people aren't the only type of teachers you can do this to, because there's another type of teacher you just have to feel bad for. And I'm talking about the pushover. The teacher who tried so hard to get respect, but had absolutely none. They didn't run the class. The students did. Kids would be on their phones, talking to each other, going to the bathroom for 30 minutes at a time. And for some reason, the teacher just didn't have the ability to do anything about it. No one feared them at all. I actually cringed being in these classes because sure, I like messing around and going on my phone during the whole class too, but seeing the teacher try to correct kids and them just not caring kind of made me feel bad for them. I've been in a class like this before where the teacher was pretty much invisible. Anything he said or did was irrelevant because none of the students cared. There was one time where he was doing a presentation about the Industrial Revolution and this kid was talking, so he went,
"Garrett, please stop talking while I'm teaching."
And Garrett just went,
Yeah, so I went. You're not my boss, shut up. So anyways, yeah.
Funny thing about that is, in this scenario, he pretty much is your boss. Like, that's literally his role. But you wanna know what was really tragic about being in that class? The teacher said that after this year, they were gonna go retire and celebrate by exploring the world for the next whole year. Well, fast forward to the end of the school year, and we were such a bad class that he said he couldn't go out on a year that horrible. So he came back for one more year to try again. And then, in the middle of that year, COVID happened. So he never got to travel the world. Legend has it, he's still teaching to this day, and no one is paying attention. Here's some teachers teachers I think we've all had before, but I didn't think were as prominent as the other ones. Number one, the oversharer. This teacher is absolutely goated to have. All you gotta do is get them talking about their weekend or their hobby outside of school, and they will waste the whole period yapping about it. Then before you know, the class is over and you did absolutely no work. I've had plenty of teachers like this where I just pretended to act interested in whatever was going on in their life just so we didn't have to do any work. Oh, you just watched the new season of Grey's Anatomy? Tell me all about it, Mrs. Michaels. Matter of fact, tell me about every season. I've had classes before where we literally didn't do the test we were supposed to do because the teacher couldn't stop talking in time to pass it out. Number two, the teacher that tries too hard to be cool. Desperately wants to be relatable to all the students. They use outdated slang, try to ask about how our personal lives are going. I remember one time, my teacher was trying her hardest to understand Gen Z slang after we took a super hard test. So she said to us,
Sorry about how difficult that test was, guys. That probably wasn't very lit, was it?
nobody had the heart to tell her that the hairs on the back of our necks just went up out of cringe. Number three, the mystery teacher. You genuinely have no idea what they do outside of school. They appear at 7:55 a.m., teach for 6 hours, then vanish. Search them up on social media, no record of them. You don't know if they have a family, friends, anything. You think one of two things about them. Either they're in witness protection or they're a robot. I prefer my teachers this way, because like I've said before, thinking about the fact that teachers have their own lives out of school just doesn't feel right to me. But there is one flavor of teacher that is the ultimate gamble. You have no idea whether this will be the best class of your life or the worst. And that is because I'm talking about the substitute teacher. Having a sub was like playing Russian roulette. Wait, no, I'm talking about a substitute teacher, not a Subway sandwich, you big back, geez. Calling me a big back when you eat like this is crazy. Really? Do you want to go right now, editor? You know what? Let's go. Let's meet in the parking lot. Come on. Okay guys, sorry for that delay. I had to take care of that situation with my editor. But anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, having a substitute teacher could either be the best day of your entire school year or it could end in disaster. There was no in between. The good subs were incredible. You'd walk into class and they'd just be chilling at the desk, scrolling on their phone. Then when the bell rang, they just hand out a worksheet and go, all right guys, finish this by the end of class or don't, I'm not gonna check. And you would just spend the entire class talking with friends, catching up on homework for other classes. But the one thing that you definitely weren't doing was that dang worksheet. Everyone was happy, but then there were the subs who tried to actually teach. Why would you even do that? And this is where things got dangerous, because since the sub wasn't your normal teacher, no one respects them. They think they can do whatever they want without any punishment. But let me just tell you right now, that is not true. And I know this because I had a sub for English once, and she was trying to teach. But then one person decided to test her limits. He started talking loud, then throwing things, and got other people involved. And you could see the moment the sub decided she had enough. She pulled out a piece of paper and started writing. Everyone knew what she was writing, the note. That's right, the worst thing you could possibly see when having a sub. The note is what the sub leaves for the regular teacher to read when they get back. And if it was a good note, awesome. But if it was a bad note, you might as well not even bother showing back up at school. So the sub starts writing names on the note, and all of a sudden, everyone wants to become professional scholars. No one's saying a word. I even saw the kid that wouldn't stop yapping 5 seconds ago holding up a quiet sign. I guarantee that's the first time he's ever done that in his life. So the whole class knew we were cooked, because when the teacher starts writing names on the note, you have no idea if yours is on it or not. So you just have to wait till the next day. And when that next day came, where our actual teacher came back, she had fury in her eyes. She read the note out loud, basically saying how much we all sucked, and we're all holding our breaths to find out what was in it. And after she finished reading the notes, she announced we were having a pop quiz due at the end of class. Everyone failed, and we deserved it, but it still sucked. So if you have a substitute, just behave, because getting your name on that note is not worth it. Or honestly, just don't show up at all if you have a sub. They probably wouldn't even notice anyway. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some unfinished business I have to take care of with my editor. Let's go.
You hustle for your business. That's why TurboTax experts for business are in your corner, working for every dollar.
Well, that decides whether you'll graduate or you won't. The whole room is silent, the clock is ticking, but you're sweating bullets because you don't understand a single question on the test. So you come up with a super risky idea, which is to cheat. And for a second, it actually works, until you slip up in a crazy way and get caught. And when you get caught cheating in my school, the punishment is that you get suspended for it. But what happened next was something I never expected. So let me explain exactly what happened. It all started during finals week, which is basically the 5 most stressful days of your whole life. It's the last week of school where you take all your tests to decide what your final grade will be. Like, I don't care if you're a doctor doing open heart surgery, Messi in the World Cup final, nothing can compare to the nerves of that final week of school, because everything is decided during this week. If you do good on these tests, it could set you up for your whole future. But if you do bad, get ready to rev up those fryers, buddy, because you are cooked. So for obvious reasons, when finals week came around, I was terrified because I knew how important it was. But there was one final test in particular that made me way more nervous than any other class. Spanish. Because for a lot of these classes in school, you can pass by simply just having a little bit of common knowledge or paying attention just a little bit. Like I can pass English easily as long as I make up a random story that the teacher will like. But when it comes to Spanish, you actually have to pay attention to get a good grade. So the night before my final exam in Spanish class, let's just say I was not feeling very confident. I'm in bed with Quizlet open on my phone, trying to study, but it turns out that not paying attention in class for 6 months and then trying to learn all the information the night before the test doesn't really work. So I just accepted that I'm not gonna have enough time to learn everything that's gonna be on the test. I didn't know what I was gonna do to pass it, but I knew I had to do something because I could not afford to fail this. So the next morning, my alarm goes off and I sit up immediately after hearing that PTS-inducing sound like a war veteran after hearing an explosion. And the second I get up, I'm already shaking. I do my morning routine and then I look at myself in the mirror and say a pep talk. Okay, you've got this. We've been through worse. We can do this. No, we haven't. Name something worse than this. The time we accidentally went to school wearing SpongeBob underwear. We're literally doing that right now. Yeah, you're right, aren't you? Dang it. Eventually, I got to school, and during finals week, the hallways just have a different energy. Kids are whispering to each other, flipping flashcards, doing that weird thing where they're reading notes out loud as if they're summoning demons. You'll even see the kids you least expected to be studying doing it. Like, tell me why I even saw the football players that think red is spelled L-S-T-E-R studying. The day goes by, and I'm taking my finals in my other classes. I was a pretty good student when it came to every other subject, so I wasn't really worried about those. But I still had that last class of the day that I had been dreading. That terrifying Español test. That I clearly nailed my science test, as you can see. But all that burrito does is make me have to fart. I reopen Quizlet while I'm eating, hoping that I can just learn a little bit of the information. I'm talking to myself out loud like, Yo hablo, I speak. Tú hablas, you speak. Él, ella, usted habla. He, she, you speaks. I keep trying to trick myself into thinking that I know what I'm actually reading. In my head, I'm saying, okay, if I can just understand part of what the question's saying, I can give the closest answer and probably get some points. The bell finally rings for lunch to end, and now it was game time. On my way to my final test of the year, and the most important one, the one that decides what will happen with my future. If I get a good grade on the test, I easily pass the class, I graduate, everyone's cheering and celebrating. But if I get a bad grade, I probably fail and have to retake it, and I'm cooked, and everyone thinks I'm stupid, and my parents are not proud of me, and this and that. I step into my Spanish teacher's classroom, which, by the way, always smell way better than any of the other classrooms. The chairs are lined up in rows so that we can't cheat on each other. My friend and I make eye contact across the room, both knowing how important this test was. Even though he literally spoke fluent Spanish because his parents were from Mexico. Don't know why he was in the same class as me. But the final bell rings, signaling that class has officially started, and immediately the teacher starts handing out tests. She tells the whole class that we will have 50 minutes to take it, and to make sure we keep our eyes on our own test and that we don't cheat, or else we will be punished. She hands out the finals like she's dealing Uno cards. Face down on the desk. Once everyone got one, she gave her pregame speech. Phones away, no talking, eyes on your paper. If I see or hear any device, you get a 0 on the exam. You now may begin. Quickly, I flip the paper over, trying to make the most of the time we have. I scan the first question, quickly realize I have no idea what it says, and say to myself, okay, that's just one question, no big deal, let's move on to the next ones. But after looking at the first 10 questions in a row, I realized I have no idea what any of them are asking. Mi no hablo español. And this is where I started to feel sick, because in that moment I knew I was about to fail that test. But not only that, I was about to not graduate. Because when I say fail, I don't mean I was gonna get like a 60% or a 70% on it. No, I was talking like 4%, or you could say cuatro. See, I know a little bit, you know what I'm talking about. Hey. But when I realized I was gonna be cooked, I started thinking about what other options I had. I could try filling out random answers, hoping that I'm right on maybe half of them, or I could try plan B. Which, to be clear, was a horrible plan I never should have done, and I blame on the fact that my frontal lobe is not fully developed. Now, what was plan B? Well, to put it simply, the plan was to cheat. And don't get it twisted, I'm not a natural cheater. I will sneak a side eye over at my friend's test every once in a while, but like full-on cheating, the thing I was about to do, that was not me. Because this plan was intense, and this is what it was. Step 1, read the question in
it.